Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at a vintage Star Wars book. This is a thing that I bought when I was a child, or someone bought it for me, and it's been in my collection ever since, and it's stayed in pretty good condition. And I just want to go through and talk about what's in this book, because it was released along with, like in 1980, along with the release of The Empire Strikes Back, and features drawings by Joe Johnston, and also his assistant or collaborator, Nilo, Rodis, Jamero. I apologize if I mispronounced his name. But they were both industrial designers, and they did a lot of designs for The Empire Strikes Back. They also worked on the original Star Wars as well. You can see the introduction here, and you can see the date over here, Lucasfilm Limited, 1980. And we're just going to go through the pages and talk about it as we go. Starts off with gun turrets on Hoth. And you can see the drawings are just fantastic in here. You know, all black and white, basically, and, you know, done with various washes and stuff like that. Really fantastic. And it's interesting to see the sort of design process, the evolution of each one of these things. We get the Imperial probe droid. Yeah, very, very cool sort of concepts, variations on the various designs until they finally perfect, you know, what they want to do with it. Rebel armored snow speeder. And you can see some of these are sort of adapted from the front end of a Y-wing fighter, like this one here, built from modified Y-wing cockpit pod. So very cool. Yeah, these drawings are just very, very creative and just interesting to look at in terms of like the design of each one of these vehicles and things for the movie. Front elevation, end elevation. Then next up is the Scout Walker. And as you can see, there's variations of that particular vehicle. And interesting that this one appears here. I believe in Star Wars Rebels, they may have done a version of this in one of the episodes, because I remember there was a walker that had feet that were designed that looked like this. So that's kind of interesting. Things that, you know, were sort of tossed out as conceptual things sometimes remanifest themselves in other versions of Star Wars. So that's kind of cool. And then these ones are much closer to what we actually got in the movie. And then the AT-AT. And interesting, I know there were a bunch of tanks that were designed initially for the attack on Hoth. And some of those designs, not this one in particular, but some of those designs ended up being used in the prequels and in The Mandalorian. Vehicles were adapted from those initial designs. So that's kind of cool. And then you can see early designs of the Walker, quite different from what we ended up with eventually. So these were sort of like almost looking like a turtle shell. So very cool. Drawings of the Walker movement. And you can see some of the prototype snow troopers here, looking quite different from what actually ended up in the film. And more concepts for the Walker. And the mechanism that drives the legs inside of the cockpit. Very cool. Shows a fallen Walker, so that's really cool because we end up seeing that happen in the movie. Sketch for the Walker's head. Another version of the Walker head. And this one's final version. This is very close to what ended up in the movie. And another cool drawing of the Walker. Snowtrooper costumes. You can see like some of the early designs. This one had sort of a Japanese influence. So that's kind of interesting. Other adapted versions of the Snowtrooper. Next is the Tauntaun. And you can see in these sketches, Tauntaun was kind of looking a little more bird-like than what we ended up in the movie. So kind of unusual. Yeah, things sort of adapt and change as you're designing these kinds of things. So I can understand why they sort of like went with this direction initially. Then we get to Yoda. So in this early version of Yoda almost has like a Santa Claus look. It's kind of interesting, very different from what we ended up with. And then here we're starting to get closer to, you know, the developing Yoda. And then over here, very close to what we ended up with in the film, or at least an adaptation of it. Darth Vader's Star Destroyer Executor. This is sort of like meant to be sort of a hot rod version of the Imperial Star Destroyer, and then it sort of just ended up being epic in size. So for the final movie, Rebel Cruiser. So, and what they refer to as Rebel Cruiser later on in the movie is referred to as a medical frigate in the Empire Strikes Back. So, and you know, this one's a lot more jaggedy than what ended up in the movie, but the shape is very much in keeping with what the final design looked like. Rebel Transport. Now this is a cool looking ship. I really like the design of this, and these drawings do kind of represent more or less what we ended up with in the final film, so quite nice. And of course, Boba Fett. So, and you get early prototype versions of his helmet and armor. So, very cool kind of thing to see, like these early prototype versions of Boba Fett. And then Boba Fett's ship. Unique design for his ship. Sort of like landing one way and then flying a different way. It was quite interesting, quite different from you know, the traditional kind of spaceship. And then you can see someone being loaded onto the ramp. Close up of the wing detail, and you can see it taking off. So that's very cool. And then side view. Awesome stuff. Got some Cloud City architecture as well. So there's an overall view of what Cloud City is shaped like. And then sort of like an architectural landscape view of the various locations. Main concourse, various buildings. And you can see the cloud car like flying around. Various versions of early cloud cars. Cool stuff. And then twin pod cloud car. And you can see early versions of it didn't have two pods. It was like a two-person, you know, single kind of wedge-shaped vehicle, and then got split in two that way, and then eventually became like the side-by-side pods. This one has a fin in the middle that didn't end up in the movie. There's a close-up of the engine, and then these are more or less sort of what we got in the final film. And that's pretty much it for this book. This book was very inspirational to me when I was growing up. It was one of many kind of artistic kind of things that showed sketches and concepts and stuff. And since it was connected to Star Wars, something I was very interested. It was one of the things that helped motivated me to you know, get into illustration and drawing, and eventually having a career as an artist. So really fun stuff, and that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more things like this where I review some of my vintage items from my collection, you know, stay tuned, because I will be covering more of this in future videos. Until next time, I hope you're having a great day, and may the Force be with you. Thanks for watching.